George Clooney and Brad Pitt's new movie, Wolves, is on Apple TV Plus September 27th.
That's where I want you to be now.
So if you want to see George Clooney and Brad Pitt, go to Apple TV Plus.
You got to start the story there.
Or if you want to see Brad Pitt and George Clooney, go to Apple TV Plus.
I am enjoying the show.
And if you want to see their new movie, Wolves,
You can't do it, I'm going to help you out. I can do it. So do it.
definitely go to Apple TV Plus.
Admit it, it's cool. Okay, fine, it was very cool.
Wolves, streaming September 27th on Apple TV Plus. Rated R.
Hi. Sorry, did I startle you? When you're used to hearing a certain type of commercial, something like this can, well, take you by surprise. That's kind of how it is with the Lexus RX, a vehicle that has continued to defy expectations for over 25 years. From the first luxury vehicle of its kind, to the first hybrid luxury vehicle, to the only plug-in hybrid worthy of the RX name. We understand you want more than the everyday SUV. And isn't being understood an amazing feeling? Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
This is Sid and Friends in the morning. 77 WABC.
City Hall Chief Counsel Lisa Zornberg is leaving her post at City Hall. Mayor Eric Adams making the announcement after 10:30 tonight, saying her work for the administration and the city for the past 13 months is appreciated, and that other senior members of the council's team will now make sure the office continues to fully operate in her absence. He says an acting chief counsel is expected to be named in the coming days. Zornberg previously worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, and now it is the Southern District of New York that is currently investigating members of the Adams administration.
It is all falling apart for the mayor. His police commissioner, Eddie Caban, resigned last week. Now his chief counsel, Lisa Zornberg, said, see ya, I'm out of here. So most of the first 50 minutes centered around the second assassination attempt of our friend President Trump, who I expect to see Wednesday night, Danielle and I, at Nassau Coliseum here on Long Island. And, of course, my daughter Ava, the story came out yesterday. Great job by Linda Sedaka. My daughter Ava was doxxed after a trip to Israel with me, Danielle, and Gabriel, and has gone through hell at her university in Wales, not far from London, for nothing other than being Jewish. That's it. Death threats. They've had rallies with pamphlets handed out with her picture and my picture. She's been home for the better part of 6 months. She is set to return to the UK this Sunday to complete her studies, her third and final year. I do want to read this. My daughter Ava put this up on her Instagram yesterday. She said, unfortunately, threatening me or wishing for me to be brutally murdered and raped by Hamas will not discourage me from completing my degree and being proud of my Jewish identity. Way to go, Ava. You are not going to intimidate this family, not Sydney, Danielle, Ava, or Gabriel. But now we'll turn our attention towards the city. It was a brutal week for Eric Adams, the Banks guys, the Caban guys. Again, his chief counsel says, see ya. And now we're starting to hear more and more names of people possibly running against Eric Adams in 2025. I heard 2 names last week. I cannot share it with you, but very, very interesting. But this guy came to the forefront in the New York Post this weekend at a Staten Island City Council member, very sharp guy, my friend Joe Borelli. Joe, good Monday morning, buddy. How are you?
Well, Sid, this is good news. I mean, the truth be told, the more friends of Sid Rosenberg that run for mayor, if it happens to be a nonpartisan ranked choice special election, the better for friends of Sid Rosenberg will all be, because in this specific type of election, there has never been one done in the entire history of the city of New York. So anyone saying this is what's going to happen or this is what can happen is just taking a good guess at this point, because we don't know what will happen, because this has never been triggered before in history. So the more people that are, right of center that want to run for mayor in a nonpartisan special election, bring them on. Let's all run. Let's make our voices, the center right, the right wing, the conservatives, the independents, the moderate Democrats. Let's make our side of the world, the rational side, the most vocal voice in the race.
But you're talking specifically then about him resigning in terms of special election, right? I mean, are you counting on Eric Adams stepping down?
No, but we have to prepare for that possibility. And again, I made it clear in my statement, I'm not hoping for bad things to happen. I don't know what's happening with him, but something could happen to him where he resigns. And I think Republicans and moderates and people that want the city to go in a different direction have to be prepared and begin for this process.
Are you at least willing to say, Joe Borelli, and you're a tough guy, Danielle and I love you. You're not afraid to say what's on your mind, obviously. Are you ready, willing, and able to say this morning what I've said for the better part of months and months, what Curtis has said for years now, and that is that the mayor, Eric Adams, has been a dismal, and I mean a dismal failure, and quite frankly, off the heels of Bill de Blasio, one of the biggest disappointments because the expectations were he was going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I agree with you. I know you had a relationship with him. I have a relationship with him. I had high expectations. Those have not panned out. And we really can't sit idly by if something were to happen to him where he was forced to resign or decided to on his own, that we're not ready to make up that gap. We have seen the last 3 election cycles that it is very difficult for a Republican, conservative, independent to run against the established Democratic candidate who came out of their own primary system. It's tough to raise the money. It's tough to go the distance. It's tough to get voters in enough parts of the city to support us. That's why this is a really, really interesting opportunity that's presented. And again, nobody knows how it's going to end up. No one knows the outcome. Now, on the criminal side of stuff, I've said this publicly in the past. Over the past 3 years, I have lost all faith in the impartiality of the Department of Justice. And that doesn't go for when it's my friend Donald Trump or when it's, my friend Michael Grimm or whoever. I mean, when the DOJ raids people's houses in the morning, I mean, they just raided some firefighters' houses about 8 months ago. Nothing ever happened from that. We never heard anything come from that. So I'm hesitant to always give, lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrel support to whatever the DOJ says.
This is City Councilman Joe Borelli. So are you saying then that you're only going to run if, in fact, Eric Adams resigns and there's a special election? If he lives out his term, you're not going to run?
Yeah, that is 100% true.
Why? But wait a second. But you care about this city. You just admitted that you think he's doing a terrible job. Why wouldn't you run no matter what?
Sid, we have an opportunity with a nonpartisan special that we have never had in our lifetime. And I think that is the only real opportunity, the only real opportunity to make sure at the very least that our collective voices are heard. And again, with ranked choice, right? If Curtis Lewa runs, my friend Curtis, I'm very confident all his second choice voters would be Joe Borelli and vice versa. So this is one of those things where we have to adapt our strategy as a political party. And basically the same way the Trump campaign is saying we have to, we have to use mail-in ballots. We don't like mail-in ballots, but we have to use them to our advantage. We have to use these quirks in the electoral rules of New York City to be prepared to run races when we have the biggest advantage. And this race could present us with a big advantage because we've only in the past seen ranked choice Democratic primaries. And by the way, in the Democratic ranked choice primary that Eric Adams won, he was considered a candidate. Catherine Garcia was considered a moderate candidate, and they got more votes than the lefty, Maya Wiley. So there is this belief that the body of electoral, votes in New York City is actually more moderate than people think.
I got to tell you, Joe, I have a lot of listeners here that used to listen to Boomer Esiason on the Fan, and they said, you know what? I used to love Sid on the Fan, and while he's talking about Trump and Borelli and Sliwa and Adams, I'm going to hear about the Jets. I'm going to hear about the Giants. He's going to play great music. He's funny. He's got the lifestyle stories, his daughter. So I'm going to tune into Sid. And those people, I must tell you, are not knee-deep in these politics. So when you talk about ranked choice voting, when you talk about these quirks, I got to assume a lot of my audience, they've heard those terms before, but they have no idea what they mean. Can you explain those as to why this would be such a golden opportunity for somebody like you?
Of course, and that's why you go to Boomer Esiason for the analysis on Monday morning, and you come to me. to get the election law quick. So we have ranked choice voting in all primaries now, like for every election. So Eric Adams won because he got the number 2 and number 3 choices of people. So people might have voted for Maya Wiley number 1. They put down Eric Adams number 2. Some people might have put Eric Adams number 3. As each person got eliminated from this instant runoff, their votes go to their second and third choices. Now, that has only been the case for the Democratic primary for mayor. When it's a special election, not only is it a ranked choice election, but it's an open election for anyone to vote, not just members of the Democratic Party. So think of how many people you know that would love to influence the outcome of an election in New York City, but have been previously barred from doing so because they haven't been able to vote in the Democratic Party. Now the floodgates have opened. And all those people, if they're not registered with a party, if they're registered with the Conservative Party or whatever, now they get to vote in this ranked choice race. So, again, I want more people like me and friends of Sid Rosenberg to run for mayor because it all adds up, and it's a nonpartisan race. I'm a proud Republican. It doesn't hurt to not have Republican, frankly, next to my name running for office when it's 7-1 Democratic enrollment advantage over Republican. It just isn't.
You know, the more I watch Eric Adams' work, the more I've come to the realization. I never knew this before. In fact, I thought it was the complete opposite when Rudy Giuliani ran this town. That the mayor, Joe Borelli, has no power. He's got nothing. In other words, he can't change bail reform because Stewart, Cousins, and Heastie, they're in his way. He can't stop these pro-Hamas terrorists. That's what they are, from invading our campuses and scaring Jews on the streets because that's the First Amendment. Quite frankly, the Columbia president has to call him first. He can't do anything. Everything's an excuse. And it's either Adrian Adams with the city council. It's the folks up in Albany. It's the governor. I've never, ever seen this, where the mayor of New York City, at least with Adams in charge, has been rendered relatively powerless.
Look, that's true when you want to focus on social policy. When you want to worry about managing the city, there's actually a lot you can do. But even on the social policy stuff, and take the migrant crisis, for example, Eric Adams, since he had his sort of change of heart on the migrants and he wants to scale back the program, he's been in court all the time getting sued by the Legal Aid Society for not doing enough, not having enough shelters, enough free food, whatever it is. If you're going to be in court anyway, you might as well be in court to actually dismantle the program. You might as well be in court not because you're not providing hot enough, rice and beans, but because you're actually saying people have to leave after 30 days, after 60 days, et cetera. That's something that a different mayor could do differently within the scope of the law. It's a new policy direction. And even as Mayor Joe Borelli couldn't just say, get out migrants, right? It wouldn't happen. The mayor is right about that. But if we're in court anyway, we should be in court about ending the system that's costing us $5 billion rather than just, kicking the tires and polishing the paint.
Last thing, you did mention our mutual friend Curtis Slewa earlier. And I don't know how often you guys talk, if you ever talk, if you've seen each other, but I'm going to date back to a couple years ago. When Curtis was talking about the St. John situation on Staten Island, and he claims that you called him a liar, which I think you did, and an ingrate and all these things, and it turns out that Curtis Slewa was right. So I think Curtis will be looking for some type of apology from Joe Borelli. Will that ever come, or right now is Curtis Slewa basically in your way?
Well, no, Curtis was wrong about the thing I called him out on. He was right about the other 3 migrant sites, which is what I was correcting him on. So I was correct. And in fairness, he was correct on 2 or 3, but I wasn't disputing those.
Okay, fair enough.
We have had a rapproche month, and I wish him luck. And frankly, if he's willing to go the distance in a long, protracted race against Mayor Adams, that's great. I'm just really hyper-focused. And I said, I don't know if I've told you, but I'm actually involved in this group that wants to get nonpartisan ranked choice voting for all of our elections, because we think it would be something that would moderate the city council. It would actually provide more moderate centrist Democrats to the city council if we had a system like I'm talking about for every election. So that's why I'm so hyper-focused on this one opportunity. And again, I'm just not the type of guy that hopes bad things happen to Eric Adams. I don't. Him losing an election is different for me than him getting indicted in something bad happening to him.
Well, what are the Joe Borelli odds? Because this whole great 10-minute conversation is really based on him dropping out. So what are the Joe Borelli odds that Eric Adams does not live out his term?
I mean, the timing isn't great for us because the petitions for the regular election cycle would start in February. I would say 5%, 10%, but it's a once-in-a-generational opportunity. If someone told, they probably told President Trump you have a 3% chance of being president in late 2015. Sometimes you got to just jump in, take the chances, and be prepared.
Fair enough. Joe, always great catching up with you, buddy. Great job. And I actually hope he does resign because I'd like to see how all this pans out. It'd be great. It'd be very exciting. Either way, thank you for coming on. Thank you for the great work you do. I appreciate it. We'll talk again very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's my man Joe Borelli right there, city council member on Staten Island, and he's going to jump in if Eric Adams goes home, but I just don't see it. I mean, the FBI is going to have to send Eric Adams home before he drops out. No one just drops out. But although Cuomo did, we'll see.
Janine Pirro here for Colonial Metals Group. Colonial Metals Group helps Americans protect their future with the most trusted store of wealth in human history. Physical gold and silver. If you're retiring or retired, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/Pirro for your free Janine Pirro Colonial Metals Group Retirement Protection Kit or call 800-965-8004. 800-965-8004 now to receive a free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver.